All of these workers are involved with the transportation of hazardous materials, and each of them must be able to recognize and identify the wide variety of hazardous materials they may encounter in their jobs. What are hazardous materials? Hazardous materials are substances or materials that can burn, explode, react violently, or cause injury or harm to people, property, or the environment when transported in commerce. The U.S. Department of Transportation, DOT, is responsible for developing, issuing, and enforcing the hazardous materials regulations. These regulations govern the transportation of hazardous materials in interstate, intrastate, and foreign commerce. DOT's primary safety goal is to reduce the risks posed by the transportation of hazardous materials. The Hazardous Materials Regulations codified in Title 49 of the Federal Regulations, 49 CFR Parts 171 through 180, set forth standards applicable to hazardous materials, including classification, packaging, hazard communication, emergency response information, training of hazmat employees, transportation, and incident reporting. DOT regulations require each hazmat employer to ensure that each of its employees who perform work functions covered by the HMR receive training, including retraining. Hazmat training must include general awareness, familiarization, function-specific, including driver training for each hazmat employee who will operate a motor vehicle, and safety training. This training video provides general awareness familiarization training, as well as guidance in recognizing and identifying hazardous materials. We will discuss the following topics: hazard classification, packagings, markings, labels and placards, shipping papers, loading, unloading, and securement of shipments, emergency response information, and incident reporting requirements. DOT regulations define 9 hazard classes of materials which are capable of posing an unreasonable risk to health, safety, and property when transported in commerce. Each hazardous material is assigned to one or more of these classes. Class 1, explosives. Explosives include chemical devices, compounds, and mixtures that function by explosion, that is, an extremely rapid release of gas and heat. Explosives include products such as model rocket engines, fireworks, small arms ammunition, and dynamite. Class 2, gases. Class 2 is broken down into 3 divisions. Division 2.1 is flammable gas, such as acetylene. Division 2.2 is non-flammable compressed gas, such as nitrogen. Division 2.3 is poisonous gas, such as chlorine. Class 3, flammable and combustible liquids. Class 3 materials and their vapors are highly flammable. Gasoline, some paints, and lighter fluid are familiar examples of this hazard class. Class 4 is divided into 3 divisions. Division 4.1, flammable solids such as matches. Division 4.2, spontaneously combustible materials such as phosphorus. Division 4.3, dangerous when wet materials such as sodium. Class 5 is divided into Division 5.1 oxidizers and Division 5.2 organic peroxides. Products in Division 5.1 oxidizers, such as hydrogen peroxide, generally yield oxygen readily and cause or contribute to the combustion of other materials. Products in Division 5.2 organic peroxide include materials such as benzyl peroxide, which may be thermally unstable compounds. Under certain conditions, an organic peroxide can begin to chemically decompose by itself, producing heat or combustion. Class 6 is divided into Division 6.1, poisonous or toxic materials, and Division 6.2, infectious substances. Poisons such as sodium cyanide and parathion may cause injuries, even death, if swallowed, inhaled, or absorbed through the skin. Infectious substances include microorganisms such as hepatitis and tuberculosis, and regulated medical waste that may cause disease in humans or animals. Class 7, radioactive material. Radioactive materials emit ionizing radiation that may be harmful to humans or animals and can affect photographic and X-ray film. Class 8, corrosives. Corrosive materials cause damage when they come into contact with living tissue, aluminum, or steel. The acid in a car battery is an example of a Class 8 material. Class 9, miscellaneous hazardous materials. These are any materials that may pose a risk to health, safety, and property, and which are not covered in other hazard classes. Class 9 includes environmentally hazardous substances, hazardous wastes, and marine pollutants. Familiar examples of Class 9 materials are dry ice and asbestos. In addition to these 9 hazard classes, DOT defines other regulated materials, or ORMs. ORM-D materials present a limited hazard during transportation due to their form, quantity, and packaging. Consumer commodities fall into this category. Hazardous materials must be properly packaged, marked, and if required, labeled and placarded. Packing groups must be considered in selecting the proper packaging for hazardous materials. The packing group indicates the relative degree of danger of the material. Packing Group 1 represents great danger, Packing Group 2, medium danger, and Packing Group 3, minor danger. Packing groups are not assigned to Class 2, Class 7, or ORM materials. Examples of non-bulk packagings include fiberboard boxes, drums, and cylinders. Examples of bulk packagings include rail cars and cargo tanks. Packaging manufacturers must ensure that each packaging complies with the hazardous materials regulations. The person who offers a hazardous material for transportation and commerce must use the packaging required for the specific hazardous material being offered. Markings are required on most packages. For non-bulk packages, some examples of markings are proper shipping name, identification number, shipper or consignee name and address, and orientation arrows. Examples of markings on bulk packages include proper shipping name, if required, and identification number. Other markings you may see on packages include inhalation hazard, marine pollutant, manufacturer's mark, and RQ for reportable quantity if the material is a hazardous substance. Also, a transport vehicle, freight container, or rail car in which the lading has been fumigated or is undergoing fumigation with any material is considered a package containing a hazardous material and must display the new fumigant marking. Labels and placards on packages and transport vehicles communicate important information to emergency responders in the event of an incident. Generally, non-bulk packages display hazard labels, while transport vehicles display hazard placards. Labels are diamond-shaped and are approximately 4 inches on each side.